Hello everybody, my name is Ace, and welcome to my We Were Here Together spoiler-free review. We Were Here Together is a two-player puzzle-solving game with an interesting twist. One player can only see one half of the puzzle at any given time. The game is designed to focus on using voice chat to communicate. So while you can see the half of the puzzle in front of you, your partner has to describe what they're seeing to make sense of it. This game starts out when two Antarctic explorers wake up to a distorted distress signal being broadcast over their radio. The broadcast leads them into the wilderness, through an abandoned mine, and finally to an ancient ruin that has the most peculiar puzzles to solve. My friend and I made a Let's Play of We Were Here Together. It took us about 7 hours to finish, and after playing, I decided I want to weigh in on how I feel about the game, and give it a rating. So I'll go over a few things that I liked and disliked about it, and by doing this I hope to justify my rating and explain why I would or would not suggest this game to someone who's shopping around for something new to play. First, I'll explain my scoring system. It's a pretty simple 1 to 5 star scale. Limiting my system to 5 points instead of 10 is much more decisive because people tend to really only use the last 5 digits of a 1 to 10 scale anyway. Here are some examples of how I would rate games. A game that I rate 1 star is a game that I play and find to be just unusable, unintuitive, and unbelievably bad. If a game is 1 star, I'll literally take the time out of my day to explain to a stranger, unprovoked, that the game is absolutely awful and they should never even look at the cover art of it. On the other hand, a 5 on my scale would be the perfect game, one I can spend hundreds of hours on because it has variety, aesthetics, and appeal. It's the kind of game that I'll rant about endlessly to anyone who will listen. And in the middle of the scale is a 3. If I rate a game a 3, it means that nothing really stuck out to me. The game was playable, I maybe enjoyed 1 or 2 things about the game, but I disliked just as many. A 3-star game is certainly playable, but it's not for everybody. Otherwise, the scale has some in-betweens, like a 4.5, where a game is great, but just short of perfection, and a 2.5, where I feel like the game was just ever so slightly below neutral. But for every in-between, I'll explain my justification. To start with, here are a few things that I liked about We Were Here Together. The puzzles. The puzzles are challenging and executed really well, for the most part. It's impossible to solve the puzzles without communicating with your partner, and sometimes what they're saying is just so difficult to apply to what you're seeing. But that's where the game really relies on the player's ingenuity and communication skills. For example, you might be stuck in an elevator and you don't know why, but your friend is on the other side pressing buttons wildly. That may eventually get you unstuck from the elevator, but if your friend doesn't remember or explain what they've done to help, you won't be able to use the elevator reliably. Once you figure it out though, the puzzle starts to make more sense and becomes totally solvable. The communication. As highlighted with the elevator example, communicating is a key aspect of the game, and I like that. We Were Here Together is one of the more unique games in its use of communication. Other games may use pings or voice chat as a supplement to their gameplay, and you can use them to improve your multiplayer experience. But they usually give you enough resources to make decisions and compete for victory without any direct help from others. That's where this game is completely different. If you don't communicate, you have no chance of making any progress at all, so you better gear up with someone who's willing to talk to you. The personality. What I mean when I say I liked the game's personality is everything from its art to its narrative is very creative. The game has several moments where a seemingly serious situation is made lighter by the humorous drawings or the imaginative landscape. For example, in the very first area, your character wakes up and you start to explore. On the refrigerator, there's a little sticky note that expresses the frustration of one character to another. And that small detail gives a little life to an otherwise neutral environment. It just really adds to the quirkiness to be discovered while you try and understand what it is you're even supposed to be doing. This game has several positives to it, but it also has some negative aspects, so let's talk about those. It's niche. The game has such an interesting premise, but it also appeals to a very specific market. The gameplay is designed for 2 players, and they have to be able to communicate effectively through visual and audio cues. That cuts out people who are looking for one-player games and who can't hear or see properly. Even I had a hard time because I have a red-green color deficiency, which made it hard to solve some of the color-based puzzles. For example, there was one puzzle that relied on me telling my partner what combination of colorful brews were used to make another, and I had to do this based on a picture book alone. So I struggled to explain whether the brews were red, orange, or yellow. Pathing. The pathing of the game felt weird sometimes. We would enter a room, explore it, then start a puzzle, only to find out 30 minutes later that there was a hidden item somewhere and we needed it if we wanted to solve the puzzle. And even when we had all the pieces, the instructions were pretty obscure, which made it hard to figure out exactly what we needed to do. The game could have used 1 or 2 more expository books or diagrams because we were often left with random pieces of puzzle, and they kind of seemed to go together somehow, but we had no clue how to implement them. And that's a decent segue into my next point. It stops dead. The gameplay of We Were Here Together sometimes stops dead, and this can happen because of ineffective communication, but sometimes it happens because the puzzles are designed to be so uninteractive. For example, one puzzle had me standing in a room by myself while I described multicolored lights to my partner, but that was it. He was running around frantically trying to avoid death while I just stood there looking at the wall. This idle time took away from an otherwise well-flowing experience and unfortunately detracts from my overall score. So, with all the positives and negatives taken into account, what would I rate We Were Here Together? I would rate it 3.5 stars. I would have given it 4 stars, but if someone were to come to me and ask for a suggestion on a new game, this wouldn't be my first choice, and that's only because it has such a niche gameplay style. That, and I did get a little upset at some of the puzzles. So, to sum up my review, I would recommend this game to someone who likes puzzles, has a friend they're comfortable voice chatting with, and likes quirky games. I would not recommend this game to someone who doesn't like co-op games, or gets frustrated when they can't figure out what to do next. I would like to add that if you're by yourself and you're really dying to try the game, you shouldn't be disheartened. There is an official Discord community, and you can use that to find a partner. You should give it a try. You might make a new friend. Well, that's it from me. I'm glad you're here to watch my video. If you liked it, make sure you hit that like button, and if you want to see more from me, the lovable Ace, you should definitely subscribe. I'm gonna go take it easy for a bit though, because recording this has been a lot of work. So I'll see you next time. Bye.